Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode. Don't worry, I'll get the number right this time. 7 of Psyched to be with you. It is an absolute pleasure and a privilege to once again be sharing the stage with another special guest. This is going to be another great chat. So, as ever, I am psyched to be with you. But please, my very special guest, please could you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you do when you're not doing that, and maybe why you do it.
Hi, I am Amanda Jones-Rincon. I am a PhD student at University of Texas at San Antonio, and I'm also a workshop consultant with TakeThis.org. When I'm not doing those, I'm probably gaming or being with my 1-year-old daughter. And why I do what I do, I guess we'll get to that in the interview. I love games and I love psychology, and there you go. I
Well,
combined the two, and that's how I got where I am today.
I mean, if you couldn't guess already, if you've listened with us before, you'll know that this is an excellent fit for the program, which is why this interview got arranged. Um, so yeah, Amanda, great to have you here. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well,
Let's
thank you
get
for having me.
let's get straight into the deep end. The PhD. These are the two questions that I can guarantee all PhD students hate, and I say that as one myself. But what's your PhD in, and when do you think you'll be finished?
So my PhD is in psychology. It's just a general basic psychology program where you find your own specialty in it. So my specialty is social psychology. So I work with a social psychologist as my advisor, Dr. Michael Bauman, in case anyone out there knows him. And I kind of bring my gaming expertise to him, and we are doing a dissertation that combines gaming and social psych. So I don't know if you want me to get into that now or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Please do.
Okay. So in a nutshell, my dissertation is about how COVID has changed gaming. So the first part will be, has gaming allowed for us to meet our basic needs during the pandemic? So our basic psychological needs, are they being taken care of? And are video games helping with that? And the second part is motivations for playing games. Have they changed during the pandemic? So, for example, maybe you played to be a completionist before the pandemic, like that was your big thing, but maybe your motivations and needs have changed to be more social. So I know a lot of us have turned either more to gaming or got introduced to gaming through the pandemic just to keep in touch with everybody. So that's kind of the quick pitch of what I'm studying.
I mean, purely as an opinion, but yes and yes. Like, is the short answer to that? Like,
yes, pretty much. We suspect yes, but now we get to measure it and not so much interfere, but interact with those yeses.
yeah, well, I mean that's the thing about science, isn't it? It's not just like we can infer as
Yeah,
psychology nerdy people that yeah, probably is the case, but we need to look at that and actually measure it and find the proof in the pudding, as it were.
right.
Yeah.
As to when I'm finishing, the goal is May of 2022.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
So.
that's pretty awesome. I mean, if you got so you sort of talk about like the PhD dissertation there. I've sort of found from like my PhD journey, I always joke, but it's like I've started the main quest and then I did the tutorial and I've just done subquests since. Like, have you got anything else that you've kind of become involved with through the journey yourself?
Yeah, I work with my advisor in his lab, as to be expected in my program that you're going to work with your advisor on whatever they're working on. So he is on a grant with the Army Research Institute to study multi-team systems, which isn't gaming related at all. It's very left field for me. Um, to kind of get into that in a nutshell, basically how teams work together in a larger system to be very what's the word? I'm not going to get too into it because it gets very complicated. So I work on that kind of research with my advisor. I've done a few other side projects, but nothing to like nothing major. I'm really trying to focus on getting my dissertation done. So most side projects are put to the side, which is
where
for
they
me to
belong,
focus.
really.
Yes, I mean, I don't regret doing side projects at all, like especially in my early PhD years, like they were necessary. You know, you got to go present something at conferences, but right now I need to hunker down, and I'm in the process of doing that.
No, that's fair. I mean, so
Yeah.
I mean, we're joking. Oh yeah, we can obviously say as nerds, and that's a title I'm imposing on myself, not on you. Like
Mhm.
yeah, gaming and COVID. I mean, that's a really like on the pulse research area.
Right.
I mean, do you like what do you see as sort of the next stage beyond that? So so you get dissertation done, and then are you going to look to like publish it? Are you going to look to continue researching it? Like, what would you want to do as like the next level?
I'm well, I would of course like to publish it. That would be cool. As for afterward, I um my dream for the longest time was to work in the video game industry as a researcher. Um, However, I'll tell you that the recent um, legal issues that Blizzard and Riot and all these other companies have come under with sexual harassment, sexual um,
Complaints.
allegations.
Yeah, I mean, legal
Yes,
investigations continuing
right,
for legality's sake, but yeah, like that has
right.
put a lot of unrest and uncertainty, and I think disquiet an industry that even like as early as like well as recently as last year was being looked at for like
Mm-hmm.
crunch and things like that. Like the industry was
Yeah.
under fire anyway.
Yeah, I think this whole thing at Blizzard just kind of set the tipping point for me. It kind of broke my heart. Like how can I want to work in an industry that treats just their base employees poorly, but especially, women and um, women of color and probably also queer women or queer people terribly. So actually, my saving grace with that was getting hired with Take This. Um,
We'll get
because
onto
I
that in a second. I think
yeah.
I think I don't know, the optimist in me is like, and I say this as a disabled person, probably someone who was not,
Hmm.
probably also faced some sort of issues with that type of thing. Is I want to be like,
Hmm.
there's got to be a place for us in the industry though, right? Like there's got to be. Like even I know we're listing big names, but
Hmm.
there are good developers out there, right? Like surely, or am I or
Definitely.
am I dreaming?
I know. I definitely think that there are good developers and people in the industry. I just I think the overall sense of trouble just kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I don't
No.
know. As a female gamer, I have faced many a harassment just casually gaming,
Hmm.
right? And I knew it happened in the industry. I mean, that this stuff unfortunately happens in all sorts of industries. But just knowing it was this bad in like my dream job
Mm.
just kind of especially hit me really hard. Um, so I haven't given up all hope. I just for the moment I'm not looking in that direction
No,
for postgraduate work,
that's fair, and I think
if that makes sense.
there is no way to even like begin to like explain, because as you say, unfortunately these type of things happen all the time in all sorts of places, and
Hmm.
it's a real problem for anyone of any other diversity. Like
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that's not to minimize like a particular group. It's just, if you're listening to this, you either know what we mean, or if you don't, well, please listen.
Right. Yeah. I'll speak to how I've been affected as like a woman and as a someone who is queer, but I can't speak to other people of other um,
Demographics.
demographics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's like the reach out side of stuff. Take this again. If you've been with us before on the show or on the stream, you'll know we love Take This. Let's talk about Take This, because I was like as enthused when I heard that you got this position as I think I ever have for anyone getting another job. Despite the fact that we only know each other through
Yeah.
Twitter, but I was like, yes, this is amazing.
I'll admit, when I got the email saying I got accepted, I totally cried. I was so happy. I was so thrilled. Yeah, so I am a workshop consultant.
So,
So
sorry for,
basically
for
with
those that don't know, I'll let you do the full pitch. But what is
oh,
Take This? So go on. You're the
oh,
you're the
okay.
employee. Hit everyone with it.
Oh boy. So Take This is a nonprofit mental health um, sort of company that helps bring mental health awareness to the gaming industry and gaming communities. It's kind of the best elevator pitch of that I can do.
That's fine. We love Take This here.
Yeah.
So what was
Uh,
so just walk us through like the application, like the process. So like you saw a role, it was a workshop consultant.
so I guess if we want to get into the whole thing, I I had seen the posting on Twitter and I kind of had some imposter syndrome about it at first. I'm like, well,
Oh,
I'm not
imposter
even done
syndrome.
with my PhD. Like, do I qualify? And I was talking to my therapist about it actually, about my game industry woes, and she had found that posting during our session, and she's like, you should apply to this because this seems really up your alley. And I told her, oh, I saw it, wasn't sure about it, and she kind of talked me into it, saying, this is part of your therapeutic regimen now, like you have to apply. Just to apply. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, you're the professional. um so I applied and I interviewed with Eve and Dr. B, who are you know, the CEOs, the big wigs of Take This, if you will. And the interview went great. Like I had a good time, and apparently they liked me enough to hire me. So
I
I
mean,
think
again, I feel like it's me being partly intrusive, but also just like as a psychologist, I find interviewing a really interesting situation. But like, what type of
mm-hmm.
stuff did they ask? Did they ask you anything you weren't expecting? They like because we've all had interviews for stuff, right? But like,
Right.
I can't imagine an interview setting where I'm getting asked about like video games and nerdy stuff, like.
So, well, as a side note, whenever I bring up like in interviews in general, like to like I guess more ordinary jobs, if you will, I have brought up that I've been a gamer before, and then sometimes those interviews do devolve into gaming. So don't be afraid to bring up your gaming habits. Uh, um, I mean, well, at first it was kind of maybe a typical interview, and then they asked me my opinions on pretty hot topics like violence in gaming, gaming addiction, um, intersectionality. And this is all stuff that I've either studied or researched. So I felt pretty confident, telling them how I feel about it, um, what I think the pros and cons of each of those are, like where we stand research wise. And yeah, we talked about just how I've been able to incorporate gaming into my entire academic career, which I didn't think was possible when I was an undergrad, but here we are. So,
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And then you found out you got the role. I mean, what does the role entail? Again, this is me purely being nosy, but that's kind of the premise for the
oh,
podcast.
you're fine. So they kind of assembled a team of us. I believe there's 5 to 6 workshop consultants. Excuse me. To where they are increasingly in demand with the industry and communities to very good to host these workshops, or not really training, if you will, but kind of like a short class about matters in the industry that we specialize in, but they need some help on. So part of my role is to, whenever a workshop needs to be edited or created or given, and it's within my purview, so within my specialty, I will edit or give it to the company and just bring my expertise to the table.
I am not gonna lie, I did look at that job like, very enviously. I was like, I mean, because again, for contractual obligation reasons, I'm obliged to say I'm not allowed to take a job that isn't my PhD work. So I would never, obviously, do anything like that. But I did look at
I
it and was
understand.
like, oh, that'd be amazing to do. I was like, will they accept someone from the other side of the world? Like,
I don't
didn't.
see why not, but
I didn't. It was too tempting, but I'm happy enough to like live vicariously through the people that did get it, and just be happy for people like yourself.
Yeah. No, I understand. My first 2 years of my PhD, I couldn't take any outside jobs, so I know where you're coming from with that. Kind of sucked, but we do what we gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just kind of volunteer right now. They're still kind of trying to figure out stuff like just how in demand they're in. Like they knew they had to hire a lot of us, but they're still getting sorted out with everything, which is fine. Kind of, on call, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, like I've met most of the people I'll be working with. Everyone is super nice, super lovely, hilarious. It's just an overall great workplace, and I think it really inspired my new career path. Definitely. So doing research, or at least helping game developers, but maybe not directly like I thought I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but indirectly with mental health awareness.
So I mean,
Which
to kind of backtrack a little bit, obviously we talked about your PhD, but what did you do at undergrad? Like, what did you study there?
So my undergrad, I was a psych major.
Mm-hmm.
I double majored in history too, because I, glutton for punishment, I guess. I just really like history. So it wasn't until maybe halfway through my undergraduate that I out instead of counseling. So I met with one of my favorite professors of all time. Her name is Dr. Judy Easton. I had taken 3 of her classes. That's how much I liked her. Like I kind of stalked her schedule and took whatever she taught. And I told her, hey, I need to do an honors thesis because I was in the honors college. And I don't know what to do it over. And she knew I was a gamer. And she said, well, we could do it over gaming. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, you like gaming and you got to do like a psych type experiment. Let's figure something out. And that blew my mind that you could do that. And I remember when I was looking up literature for the thesis paper, I was not expecting there to be so much. This was in 2014. Right. So there was plenty of stuff, but little undergraduate me like had no idea just how vast gaming research was.
Mm.
And so I credit her with putting me on this path because she really inspired and motivated me to study what I loved.
That's pretty cool.
And so finished my undergrad, and then I did my master's in psych research. So very similar to what I do now. And that thesis was also over gaming.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that was
Mm-hmm.
sort of because, and like this episode is not sponsored by Take This. I mean, I wouldn't take their money anyway, but you should totally check Take This out just as a point of reference. Like we love Take This, but like because I've genuinely like I'm sitting here doing a PhD and I'm also a glutton for
Mm-hmm.
punishment. So I'm kind of sitting here going, maybe I could go back and do like a master's in like game design or something, just to like have that like the very the Kelly Dunlap esque like Dr. Kelly
Oh
Dunlap
yeah.
like be the complete package because that way I'd be like research and like game design itself. Have you thought about like as that as a potential route like
Oh no.
fair
No.
fair fair
Um I admire her I don't want to say courage, but her tenaciousness to do that. That's not really for me. I will stick to psychology because that's what I'm good at. Um, I will be happy to work with people who do that sort of thing, but no.
I feel a deep need to just clarify, by the way. I'm not saying I could do it or that I'd even get onto a course. I'm just saying maybe I should try. I don't think I'm that good. I'm just gonna point that out. I just think like it'd be really good to have that string to the bow. And like
Hmm.
I was gonna ask you this anyway. Have you had any like really like I'm gonna say silly but silly questions? Because I legit got
Hmm.
asked. I'm doing video games and mental health. It's my PhD. But someone legitimately asked me like, why didn't you make your own video game? I was like, that was a serious question I got asked, and I was like, because I don't have a degree in game
Oh,
design.
yeah.
I'm not an artist.
I I am I'll admit I'm scared of coding.
Okay.
Like even like R scares me sometimes. Like the statistical software.
Oh yeah. So
Um
so what's R for those that don't know?
oh, R is it's just a software program that you can use to do statistics for um psychology. Um I was not trained with R. I was trained with SPSS, which is another statistical software.
Yeah, you kind of
So
got
code.
like SPSS is kind of the capitalist conglomerate. It's a very no, owned by a very big famous company, and it's very expensive for
Oh yes,
universities.
IBM.
And
Hmm.
then like R is kind of like it's designed to be like a coding program, right? So you can code it to run data. I know it's used a lot in like
Right.
what we call power analysis. So, like you run numbers to estimate what will
Hmm.
happen with your data. I went to a
Yes.
couple of workshops on it, run by the wonderful people at Psyched over here in the UK, and it blew my mind. I could not keep up with it. I was like, I'll look at this when I have some more time because I'm gonna have some time doing a PhD.
You'll find it. You don't know where you'll find it, but you'll find it.
I've stopped using the term spare time because none of my time is spare. I just have time
No.
when I'm not working or sleeping.
Yeah, you just kind of carve out time wherever you can find it. No, I know that thought very well. I mentioned before I have a daughter, a 1 year old. So
My
yeah.
complete admiration for anyone with little people and doing anything to be honest.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. Coding is not my thing. That's something my husband's very good at. Like that's his job. Is actually he's a software engineer, so he does that sort of thing. So I kind of use the excuse of, well, I don't need to know it because my husband does.
Nice.
But speaking to you, if you're stubborn enough, go for it. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you not to. Like if you feel like you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you're.
again, like again, I apologize if you've heard this before, but like I like yourself, I went like straight psych. I did like forensic psychology,
Hmm.
criminal justice undergrad, did a master's in health
Oh.
psychology, and then like PhD. Like it's technically cyber psychology because it's because like my director of studies is a cyber psychologist, sort of,
Oh,
like
that's right.
by
She
trade,
is.
if you will. Actually,
Hmm.
she doesn't use the term cyber psychologist because it would technically be a protected title, and we don't have those. That's a legality thing again. I'm backtracking. But like someone who studies cyber psychology specifically as a discipline. Mine's
Right.
technically covered under that because it's digital. And the
Oh,
whole
okay.
we could spend the entire rest of the episode on what is a video game entire, because that's a big question for some reason in
Yeah.
research. But the point I was
Fair.
making with that was that, like, yeah, straight psych, and like it makes sense and it gives us the ability to research. But I would like, for me as a research person, I'd love to be able to make my own game and then test that. That would be like the pinnacle in my view.
I know that there are some programs out there where you can make like your own very small game for research purposes. And because I've looked into it, and I just, even that was too complicated for me. I'm
And
just like, I'll just find the right game to use
another
that's already made.
small plug, but the IGGI over here in the UK, they're based in York and London.
Hmm.
The meaning of the acronym has just escaped my mind, but they are like that. It's a research based sort of PhD, but it's mostly people that can code and program. So you have to like have a portfolio to apply. And like I
Hmm.
attended their conference online a couple months back now. Was it? Maybe it was
Hmm.
last month. Time is a man-made construct. It's fine. Um,
Oh, definitely.
like ignore that. But like it was really good. But it's rooted in that, like it's rooted in game design. So like there are the two sides of the coin. I think, and I'm
Right.
sure you might not agree, but we just need to kind of get those us working together a bit more. Is the big missing piece.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah.
Like, and it's funny because I spoke to him. I was like, as a psychologist, and like, yeah, we need you. Like just keep badgering us, so like to be involved. And I'm like, but we want to just bring us in. Like,
Yeah, I remember when I learned that the game industry in as a whole needs researchers kind of like us to help them with stuff they need in the game, or how they can make the game more appealing to audiences, or how they can cater to what the audience needs. And I remember that moment blew my mind. Like, what? You need us? Oh, okay.
I, I
Like,
I remember the day I heard about Celia Hodent's work on UX. Like that was
oh
like,
man,
yeah,
that was a good day.
that
I
was that
remember
was a,
that day
that was a
too.
good day.
Yeah.
Sorry again, like this is now just like two psychology video game people nerding, like just research crushing over people we like. Dr. Celia
Oh yeah.
Hoden is an excellent psychology researcher and also video game designer who specializes in user experience and user design.
Hmm. Yeah.
If you're listening, Celia, big fans, big fans.
Yeah. Thanks for doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Sorry, big tangents. I apologize. I forget what we were originally talking about, but just to circle round to, like, so you mentioned there you were doing the take this stuff. You mentioned it had changed your
Yes.
mind a little bit about what you want to do next. So what is
Right.
that? What now? Right now, in what is the year 2021? What's the dream? What's the dream job?
I think it would be to work more closely with Take This. So, as more than a workshop consultant, but maybe join their more permanent ranks. Maybe working with Rachel Cowart a little bit more, Dr. Cowart, if you will, because she's the research director there. So, I would follow what she does a little bit more than, say, Dr. B, who's more clinical. I am not clinical at all, so I probably wouldn't go that route. But
I
basically,
think
to use my research for good.
that's fair. I was gonna, like, I don't
Yeah,
want to put the burden of definition on yourself here, but would you just mind
go for
explaining
it.
like the difference between like clinical psychology and not, for listeners' benefit?
How I kind of go about it is, if you're a clinical psychologist, well, at least this is what I know from my schooling. Like, you're gonna see clients, or you're gonna be, maybe more of a therapist without doing the certification route. Um, you do more medical things. So I believe there is some research involved, but it's not as research heavy as just being, well, a research psychologist.
Yeah,
However, that definition is not uh what's the word?
definitive.
I don't know.
Ironically.
There you go.
Yeah.
Definitive.
No, I mean it's genuinely really complex. I mean, like, again in the UK, like, you can do medicine and then do psychology and then therefore be a psychiatrist. You can also do
Yes.
psychology and then, like, so in like how I understand it is, you have to do an undergraduate in psychology, maybe a master's and more specialized, but then you would have to
Mm-hmm.
do clinical at doctoral level, and that is more, you want to be working in hospital settings, you want to be working in a much more like
Yes.
medicalized sort of view of like psychology. That's generally it. And then in the UK at least, everything else is kind of other disciplines, and it kind of splits like into health and cyber psychology and all that.
That's pretty much how it is generally here in the United States. So I know clinical PhDs, they take way longer because you have to do maybe rotations or hours to get your clinical hours in that are required to graduate. And I'm not. I used to be interested in that, but now I'm like, nah, research only. I'm good with that.
PsyDs are like really, really like much rarer in the UK. They're much harder to come by. A lot of them, to get onto the program, you already have to have a job that facilitates you getting those hours. Like, it's not like if they put you on
Mm,
a placement. So they're much more. We tend to just have a lot more research based kind of community in psychology in the UK. I mean, I
yeah.
might be wrong in that. That's maybe a general. It's my opinion. I don't have any data to back that up, but that's very much my impression, particularly as someone who, up until last year, was looking at doctoral programs all the time to try and get onto them.
Yeah. I don't know too much about PsyDs to comment. I was just always told during undergrad, if you want to do research, PhD is the way to go. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't even look at any PsyD programs.
So, I mean, I
So
suppose the takeaway there is, any aspiring psychologist, just, find what you like and then pursue it.
pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Just be stubborn about it. Go for it.
So, to step away from work, you mentioned you're a big gamer. I'm obliged to say, what else do you do when you're not working?
Well, gaming. My daughter. I sometimes I get on reading kicks. So I just finished reading Dune to get ready for the
Oh,
new movie coming out. Didn't it get released over there with y'all
no,
before us?
no, that Europe have it. Europe have it. We don't get it until 21st of October, and I'm very angry about it.
Oh, okay. I think we get it the 22nd, so that's a bummer.
I mean, if that isn't, and apologies for being political, but if that isn't Brexit, I don't know what is.
I want my Dune now, damn it. I'm looking forward to it. My best friend is huge into Dune, and she's like, "Let's go see the movie," and I'm like, "Okay," and she's like, "But you have to read the book first." And then I bought like it was a 800-page paperback version of it, and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll read it," and I liked it. I didn't think I would. I'm not really big into sci-fi novels, so
Well, I am a huge Dune fan, so I feel a big need to just we'll keep it spoiler free. Keep it spoiler free for the
yes,
benefit of the movie coming out.
for
But
sure.
what did you think? Because I've read all of the books. I'm actually rereading them because,
Oh.
like yourself, I reread Dune to get into the movie, and I was like, you know what? Let's just go through the whole series again, because I'm at the end of the third book, Children of Dune, at the moment. I will say it's a bit easier for me because, like, being a person with a visual impairment, I listen to audiobooks. That makes it a bit easier to
Oh,
digest. So,
okay.
like, I can read Dune and walk my dog at the same time, or, like, I can multitask because listening's a little bit easier. Um,
Right.
so it's a bit easy for me to
I
consume them. But, like, oh wow, Dune is good.
I appreciate audiobooks. I'm more of a fan of, I guess, the more traditional way with a paperback, but audiobooks, I'm very grateful that they exist because people like you and people like who just can't sit down. with a book, can still enjoy a book. You know what I mean?
I really like. Sorry, this is like a tangent within a tangent within a tangent.
Go
Like,
for it.
I remember like when they tried to market audiobooks like to mass market. Like I remember
Hmm.
like when Audible like wasn't owned by Amazon, if you can remember that far back. And like it
I
was
can't.
like, whoa, like they're trying to sell audiobooks to not blind people. No one's gonna pick that up. And then like podcasts became a thing, so and then everyone realized I actually quite listening to people go on about stuff. And that's basically what an audiobook is.
Pretty much. Okay. I liked it. I think the first maybe 50 to 100 pages, like before they get to the Dune planet, Arrakis, are a little slow. But once they arrive and uh, stuff hits the fan, if you will, I couldn't put it down. I was like, I have to know, like, what's Paul doing? What is the Baron doing? What's Lady Jessica doing? Like, I had to know everything.
Okay,
So
so I think actually, I got excited because you mentioned Dune. But for those that don't know, it's a sci-fi novel written by Frank Herbert. I think the original was like
yes,
65.
yep,
It's that old. There was a 1984 movie directed
yep.
by David Lynch, which many people don't like. I haven't seen it, but I do want to watch it because I'm a David Lynch fan. Side tangent. But the general, it's very very metaphorical, very allegorical, if you
Oh,
will.
definitely.
Um, it's it can't. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it was very inspirational behind Game of Thrones. If you like that, you'll probably like Dune because it's these houses. There is lots of political
Mhm.
stuff going on. There's lots of action stuff going on. It's like
Mhm.
you kind of have to envisage all the pieces on the chessboard at once to get a real idea of what's going on. But as you say, like you get
Yeah.
invested in these individual characters. Like, well, what's Paul gonna do? What's Lady Jessica up to? Whose motivations are really behind who?
Yes. I think the writing behind the characters is probably my favorite part. The environment, okay, I get, Dune's important, the spice is important. All right.
Yeah,
But the
this
characters real
isn't a spoiler, but like spice is a metaphor for oil. Everyone wants all of it.
Oh, it is. Wow, I didn't think of that. Mind blown. Anyway, the way the characters were written really like kept me going, and I do plan on getting Dune Messiah to read next, once I have some reading time. So
I like
yeah.
Messiah. It's definitely a change of pace, and it's much smaller, much shorter than the original Dune. But
Oh, good. Okay.
um, and then this is like proper literary stuff. But like I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, but there's that like age old meme of like Tolkien spends 5 pages describing a tree. For as long as Dune is like that
Yeah.
800 pages, not much of it goes to waste. You really do get a very good sense of the world and the groups of people and their beliefs and the universe and how
Hmm.
everything interconnects. And like you say, like if you go down that rabbit hole, I'm super invested.
Yeah, I'll have to let you know what I think of Dune Messiah then, because my advisor, we were actually talking about Dune at our meeting yesterday, Monday, and he's like, "Well, the books get a little worse as they go on." So, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll take all of them with a grain of salt." So hopefully they hook me as much as the original, but we'll see.
I'll go out on a limb and I'll say I think Children of Dune is my favorite out of the lot I've read because like so there's 6 novels originally written by Frank Herbert, then he passed away, and there's this whole supposed there was a 7th novel that his
Hmm.
son and a writer wrote, but they split it in 2 books. They're definitely not as good. Just the style of writing is not quite up there. But I read it because
Yeah.
like I want that conclusion to the story.
Hmm.
Since then, there's been like a whole load of prequels and spin-offs about the houses and stuff. And people are like, if you really, really like Dune, read it. But they're definitely not as good. So I kind of agree that like they maybe do decline a little bit, but like they're so good anyway. It's not
Okay.
bad. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I'll
um,
give it a shot.
and
Definitely.
like 3 and 4 is pretty good. I think again, like spoiler free, the wildest thing I think to get your head around is that
Mm.
1, 2, and 3 all follow each other quite soon in time. I think there's only like a decade between like the start of June and like the end of Children of June, and then there's like a big leap. And I think that can be like why a lot of people like, well, this feels really disconnected,
Oh,
if that makes
okay.
sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
sorry, big fan. June tangent over. So you like to read?
Yes. Um yeah, I mean, it honestly it's mostly gaming either with my husband or I'll get on uh my friend has a huge Discord where we all most of us get on every night and usually we're all playing different games or some of us will be playing a game together while the others are playing their own thing, but we all just talk and chill and it's what I do most nights. So that's when I play. Well, I'm kind of playing a lot of games right now, so I don't know if you
Okay,
want to go
so
into that.
let me just sort of say like, so what do you play on? What formats, platforms?
Oh, PC, definitely.
Yeah.
I have a PS5. We were very fortunate to get one. Um, those are the main two. We do have a Switch, but I haven't played it in a minute. And then that's it.
Okay, so then have you played anything good lately? You want to tell us about what you've been playing?
So I am the kind of person who plays a lot of games at once, depending on my mood, what platform I'm on. My husband and I share a Steam account because it's just easier for games that way. So if he's using Steam, what am I going to play on Xbox Game Pass? So overall, let's see. I'm replaying Kingdom Hearts 3 on
Nice.
the PS5. I'm playing Stardew Valley with one of my best friends. We're going through it together. Uh, Playing The Binding of Isaac, which is a roguelike dungeon crawler, one of my favorite games of all time.
For anyone that just Googles that, it's quite graphic though. Do look after yourselves.
It is, yes. It's kind of disturbing if you're not used to the game or Ed McMillan's sense of humor, if you will.
Yeah.
He also made Super Meat Boy. So if y'all are familiar with that. I'm replaying Hades, which is another one of my favorite games.
I mean, when you say
So that
replaying, I
is
mean like the roguelikes ever actually end.
so no. I completed Hades on the Switch last year. Um, Shortly after I gave birth to my daughter. So being on the Switch was very easy to be in bed with her, watching her as a newborn. And then I got it again on PC because I had an itch for it. And I'm like, I want achievements this time.
Fair.
And then I'm playing Boyfriend Dungeon. Actually, I know another Take This plug. They were playing it on their Twitch channel.
Okay, let's just talk for a hot minute because oh my days, that was hilarious. Like honestly, it'll be on YouTube. So I'll put a link in the description because honestly, it's just worth watching. It was hilarious. I'm put it this way. I like Take This so much. I watch the streams back because time zones. It's usually starting when I'm going to bed over here. But like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
my days, that Boyfriend Dungeon. I did not expect Dr. B to blush quite as easily as he did, and it was brilliant.
The game is yes, definitely more blush worthy than I anticipated.
It's
It's a
fruity.
dungeon crawler uh dating sim. And yeah, it gets really out there.
I mean,
You know,
for again, like listeners' benefits, like the persons that you can date, by and large, are all like they're also weapons. So just sword jokes in there. Just like I'll let you work that out
oh,
yourself.
plenty. Um and Yeah, I maybe my friend says I'm like halfway through that, so we'll see how that goes. And then just a lot of multiplayer games. So Splitgate's really popular right now, which is like Halo meets Portal. This is
Oh,
really fun. Um, never want to turn down Jackbox or Among Us. A lot of multiplayer stuff that my friends and I can just put on real quick and
hop in,
play.
hop out.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I think we've kind of like we've exchanged tweets to the effect before, but you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan.
So that's my favorite gaming series of all time.
Nice.
Yes.
Um,
I got
can you
Go ahead.
explain?
Oh, no.
Again, for like
I
listeners' benefit, like it's a well-known meme that the Kingdom Hearts, like I'm gonna say canon, just doesn't make sense.
I will defend it to the extent to where I if you play all the games and if you actually like care about the universe and the canon, it's not too difficult. But if you're just not going to be that into it, then yes, it gets comically difficult. And I know some people love Kingdom Hearts to the point where they will, die defending it like on the internet. I'm not one of those. Like if you don't like it, that's fine. But it stuck with me since the first game came out. I got it for Christmas when I was like 10. And well, I've loved it ever since. So
Have you got a favorite game in the series?
yes, Kingdom Hearts 2, so good.
I have reliably heard that is like the quote unquote best one.
That is the best one. The combat evolved from the first game. Exploration, just the sheer amount of stuff you can do. The only issue people have with it, and I tend to agree, is that that's when the story really starts to get complicated, because it just starts introducing so many new characters and motives and plot lines. But again, if you love the universe, you're gonna stick with it, and it won't be that difficult.
Because I'm
Yeah.
I'm saying this as someone who's only played the first one, and like
Mm-hmm.
it was good, like I didn't do all the extra
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and like the gummy ship stuff was a bit weird, but like
Yeah.
and all right, and again, no spoilers, but that final boss took the absolute biscuit. It went on forever. You couldn't save. Like I
It
ended up
well,
cheesing that by just like letting Goofy repeatedly revive and sort it out himself, because I was not good enough to deal with that. It
yeah.
just had no business.
I mean, it's an action JRPG, but a JRPG final boss, like, come on, they have to be dramatic and difficult, and it has like at least 3 forms. you know. Yeah, the first one's great. It's not top tier for me anymore, but it's still regarded as the one of the best. And you can play the first game kind of in a vacuum and appreciate it. And that's what I like about it maybe the most.
Fair enough.
No.
So have you got anything else that like you're playing that you would just like straight up like recommend? Like, because you can play a bunch of games, so it doesn't necessarily mean they're all good, right?
Well, I'm at that point in my life where I don't have time to play games that I don't necessarily enjoy, you know? So if I start a new game and I'm not really hitting the six with it, if you will, um, I'll just stop playing it. So I would personally recommend all the games I'm playing right now. If I had to pick one, it would be Hades, definitely. It won God knows how many awards last year, just like Game of the Year all over the internet. But the the combat, the story, the music, oh man, the music like makes me tear up. It's very good. um the environment. Just if you enjoy, well, if you enjoy roguelikes, so if you enjoy not having the same exact environment and gameplay over and over again, you'll love it. And not that I'm trying to be a shill, but it is on Xbox Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you should give it a try.
No, that's fair. I mean, I'm also just a big fan of Greek mythology, so sold.
Yeah, that game actually inspired me to read the Iliad.
Oh wow! I mean, that's pretty bold.
Yeah, it got me into a lot of like Greek myth type novels and the Iliad, and I'm like, oh man, I was never interested in it before playing this game. So
I mean, I was going to recommend Stephen Fry's trilogy of Greek books, but it sounds like you've read everything you might have commented on. Like,
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Well, Hades. I mean, again, I haven't played it. I'm kind of like the antithesis of yourself in your gaming attitudes, and that. Firstly, my golden rule of thumb, and it is for every pound that I spend on a game, I want to get an hour out of it. Like I kind of, it blows my mind that you can buy
That's
like
fair.
a game for like £50, $60, and like the main campaign's 6 hours long, and I'm like, wow, that's a really bad return. Because I haven't got time to play through a campaign on 8 different difficulty levels, doing the same thing, which is slightly harder. Personal opinion. But I also try and like to finish games. I get a big satisfaction of ticking games off. So I kind of alternate between a game that I've started and not finished, and a game that I haven't touched. And like everyone else on the planet, I have a huge Steam library that is far too large.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
It's on sale. I must buy it.
I want to say our library is maybe 200 games at least, and I still want to replay Witcher 3 again. Like, I haven't learned my lesson.
Okay, so again, another confession, but I have never actually played any of the Witcher games. I've got the first one, and everyone's like, Chris, it's not you just play the third one. It's not, you don't have to have played the first two. And I'm like, there's just that.
No, you don't.
That bit in my lizard brain that's like, but the first two came before it, so I have to play those first.
So the first one is difficult to play. The gameplay is very dated. I personally could not get through it. I'm like, I'm going to look up a synopsis. That's it. The second one is good. It's a very good precursor to the third one, where it's a little bit more open and you can do more. But man, the third game, just top 5 games of all time. I understand what your brain is telling you, but I must agree with everyone who's talking to you about it. You definitely try to get into it. The third one.
I should just play it and just have reckless abandon and just.
Yes, it's an amazing game. There might be some. Well, now that I think about it, there might be some issues with accessibility that may be a hindrance that I kind of don't need to think about. So maybe he's look into that first.
Yeah, I mean, that that's a side thing. I think, like, particularly, it's partly an excuse and also a taste thing. But like, that's one of the reasons I find MMOs really difficult to pick up, because there's usually a heck of a lot going on, and I'm a gamepad gamer. So like, using a keyboard, I'd be like, wait a minute, what have I got to press? And then I'm like, my keyboard's in my face, and then like the screen, because a lot of the time the accessibility options, quote unquote, is just, we'll make everything bigger, and then like you just can't see the screen. So
yeah.
My really, like, for those listening, if you need a real quick accessibility, just play the game in a lower resolution. It just makes everything bigger. It might be a bit derpy on your graphics card, but it helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I mean, avid gamer, love to see it.
Yep. Definitely.
I really like, and I know you touched on it, but like the community aspect of the gaming that you have, like, you'll just jump on with friends and you might do multiplayer, or you'll just be playing different things, but you'll still be chatting. Like, that's really good. I think that's, you're researching it, but that social connection Like, you don't have to
Hmm.
be playing the game with someone to have a shared connection with it.
Right. Definitely.
So we're sort of coming towards the end of sort of the standard questions as I have them.
Go.
Um,
Okay.
but before we get on to that, though, I do want to ask. So and it's something that we spoke about before the show, but let's talk about teaching. So it's
Oh
very
yeah, yeah,
common
yeah.
for PhD programs that you have to do some teaching. I've
Hmm.
been speaking this week, about the fact that at the time of recording, next week I'll be teaching for the very ever first time. It's a
Oh,
bit of a
I'm so
yikes.
excited for you.
Look, teaching, yeah. Give me the skills. Give me the skinny.
Oh, oh boy. I don't know if I can gave you all the skills. How big is your class?
I don't actually know. I know it's genuine. I think it's probably written somewhere, but I don't know. But it's a seminar on like basically statistics. It's basically stats and like
Okay.
research design kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. So, well, I mean, depending on class size is what I was kind of the advice I would maybe give you because I've
It's
taught.
seminars, so it's not lectures. It's going to be like a smaller group size. They'll be working through stuff.
Oh, okay. So the first class I taught was a lab for statistics where I taught sophomore, junior level undergrads how to use SPSS.
Yeah, so it's that kind of
So,
stuff.
oh, perfect. Probably the biggest piece of advice I have for you then is just be patient. For a lot of your students, this is probably going to be the first time they've laid eyes on the software,
It's
I'm
going
going
to
to
be the first time I've
guess.
seen it in a very long time. I'll tell you that for nothing.
So definitely go through the lesson on your own before teaching it, um, just to kind of brush up on it. But teaching is the best way to learn. When I taught that class, I remembered a whole lot of SPSS that I did not learn when I took that class. um, but yeah, you're going to be dealing with students who maybe aren't statistically minded. Maybe those who see the program you're using and freeze up. Um, just have patience and be able to do a lot of examples or the same example over and over. Because, you know, like I said, for a lot of them, this is probably the first time they've seen this and they're like, what is going on? So, and don't be afraid to like, help them individually as well. Maybe some students have an issue with one part of the lesson that other students don't have, and they could be too scared to speak up. Just offer to help them either after class or during class, you know. Um, and just be, honestly, you're going to hear this a lot, be yourself. So students don't my students at least thought it was great that somebody who loved gaming, loved the last same music they liked, was actually teaching them instead of your maybe stereotypical older person teaching a class. You're almost one of them, except a little bit older and a little bit wiser. So use that to your advantage.
I
They will
am
respect you for doing so.
definitely concerned that I'm going to be like in a room full of like fresh faced undergrads, 18, and I'm going to be like, I'm so old. They're gonna be like, who's this dinosaur teaching us? You know what I mean?
The age comparison between you and them is definitely not as bad as probably some of their other professors.
Yeah, it's fair.
Don't be like that Steve Buscemi meme where you're like, hello fellow children, like don't do that. But you've been where they are at a more recent time than their other professors, so you can use that to your advantage. Like, you've been in their shoes and in their seat. literally not that long ago, you know. And at least in my experience teaching statistics and intro to psych, like they'll respect you for it. They'll respect you more if you, admit, I don't know. If you say I don't know and, look up the answer rather than BSing your way through it, they'll respect it.
I mean, that's just like a pro-life advice tip. like
True, but I think some people are afraid to say I don't know, especially when they're in that position of, I don't want to say power, but like that
you're
position
kind of
over people.
expected to know things, right? Like someone is essentially paying you to know these things, right? I think that's maybe where it comes from. In this scenario, I
Yeah.
mean, unfortunately, you get this whole thing, this dynamic. Just I feel like you see it a lot in life where people just seem to be very reticent to just be like, oh, I don't know. They'd rather BS it and just try and be like, oh yeah, like look it up yourself, kind of shenanigans.
So when that happens, in my experience, especially when I taught intro to psychology, because intro is a very mishmashed, little bit of everything class. I don't know everything about psych. Oh my God. So if they ask me a question and I'm like, I don't know, I would first ask them, do you mind looking it up so I can know and the rest of the class can know? And then if we can't find an answer, I usually just write it down for next class time. And then at the beginning of the next lecture, I'll be like, hey, last week, the student asked this. Here's the answer to that. So, and I have legitimately Googled things in the middle of lecture. It's okay. It happens. Just, they're 18-year-olds.
They're
Use that to
18-year-olds.
your advantage. Yeah.
Again,
No.
this is maybe like a more of a sort of standard PhD question, but like, how did you like personally find managing the like teaching alongside doing the research? Because that's a common at loggerheads kind of moment.
Yeah, I really just days I taught were teaching days. Like I didn't really do much of my research work during those days, so I could be more focused on teaching. So those were days where I would grade or manage like our class page, like web page, if you will. Those were days where I had my office hours. It's easier for me personally to make teaching days and research days like separated out, just so my mind can be focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are able to do that, that is what I'd recommend. I don't know how your schedule looks, so
I do think like that's in an ideal world, that's definitely you want to be able to sort of compartmentalize it and just because
yeah.
if you've ever tried to do more than one thing on the same day, like it can legitimately be like quite difficult to try and switch like your mind's focus.
Yeah, switching gears can often be more detrimental than anything. And unless you absolutely need to, well, unless I had to, that is what I tried to do. And it was successful maybe 90% of the time. Oh, here's another tip just from teacher to teacher. Don't answer emails on the weekends. Don't do it.
Well,
Like
that's a you might think you're doing a nice thing, but then all you're really doing is setting up that expectation of the fact that you're available and like strict working hours. I have office hours for a reason.
yeah. So I guess I'm guessing you have a syllabus
Mm-hmm.
like for your yeah. Um it was hammered into me pretty quickly that you need to set up realistic response times. So my rule of thumb was I'll respond within 24 hours during the work week, or if you email me later than like 9 p.m. Friday, I'm not getting back to you till Monday.
I don't know my like university's like policy, like strictly,
Hmm.
but I think it's like 48 hours, 48 working hours. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty typical. You will have students who ignore that. You just need to be very firm.
that's fair.
And again, that is mostly for your benefit as a human being, not to be on call for them. But yeah, I mean, they are mostly what, freshmen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you set the stage that way for them, like, hey, don't expect instant like feedback or an email, then hopefully they will carry that through their college career.
Yeah, setting up good habits now.
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, I appreciate that advice. If you find yourself teaching in the future, I'm very, as a listener, very helpful advices. Um,
Hmm.
so my next couple of questions are sort of a couple of my favorite. The first one is, what would be your blue sky research project? So you've got unlimited resources, finances, people, participants. You've got access to everything. What would you like to research?
Hmm.
I say this every episode, but mine would be get people to play Celeste and like just mark their responses on that. Because for me, Celeste is the perfect game. It's got mental health themes. It's wonderful. The soundtrack
Oh,
is absolutely dank. And like just
I'm
getting
so bad at platformers. I haven't played it yet.
like that
Rip.
that
I'm sorry.
longitudinal kind of like just however many hours it takes you just charting your experience with it. That would be mine.
Yeah. Um I so my dissertation is actually one that I changed uh when COVID hit. Excuse me. My original project was to study couples in gamings and to
Oh,
see how um, gaming could help couples communicate with each other. That was my original dissertation idea.
I've just got like
And in
mental images of like people having fights over Overcooked or something.
it, um, I I was gonna bring people and like couples into the lab and have them play either together or separated or have a set of conditions and randomization. But COVID, ruined that. Um, I think that would be my project, is to go back to that, because I got really attached to it. I really wanted to do it. I had a lot of stuff set up for it too.
I mean, like you could do. I mean, there's so much you could look at there. I mean, like
Oh,
even like
definitely.
platonic couples of like friends, like like as
Hmm.
well as like romantic couples. You can compare the differences there. Like, oh, there'd be so much to look at.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be really interesting.
Hmm.
What stuff would you have people play? What would your experimental games be out of interest?
I don't think I got that far actually, because that was something I was having trouble deciding, like what game should they play. Like it would have to be a game to where the skill set needed wouldn't be crazy, because I would need to bring in couples who don't play games together too,
Hmm.
to have a comparison set. So, like, is the Mario Kart skill set low enough? Overcooked would be too much. Like, I can barely get through a round of Overcooked
Well,
without
that's the
freaking
thing.
out.
Like the actual, it's like with Overcooked specifically, it's a little cooking simulator for those that don't know. Its
Hmm.
control scheme's very simple, but the actual game is really hard.
Right.
Because like my gamer brain was like one condition Overcooked, so it's local, so they communicate. You could get people to do Portal
Hmm.
2, like where they're in the room or where they're not, so they have to use like the in-game like emotes
Oh,
and see how much harder that is to communicate.
that would
Like,
be
but like,
crazy.
that's maybe like asking for a lot from maybe someone that doesn't play games.
Right.
This is why
Um,
research is so good, people. Like, fun this research.
um, well, It Takes Two did come out not too long ago, and apparently that's one of the quintessential like couple co-op games right now. I haven't played it yet, but I would look into that definitely. There is so much to choose from. It would really depend on what conditions I decide to go with, but something where the skill set's not crazy. Like the game doesn't require a whole lot from you.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to put up Smash Ultimate or something like that, because that would just be too much.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Yeah, there'd have to be a lot you'd put into that, but that's a really good. Again, and we're talking blue sky, so like you'd be able to do it. Like there'd be
Oh yeah,
infinitesimal resources and stuff. That'd be great.
I'd be able to measure so much, and I could actually pay them a good participant payment for their time. Yeah.
We can dream. So one of my last sort of, like big questions is, and this it's still sort of a new one that I introduced mid-season, but is there anything or anyone that inspires you and what you do that you'd like to kind of give notice to? I preface it that way because you know many people can gain inspiration from many things and many people themselves. But is there anyone that you kind of like would specifically like to give a little shout out to now?
um so I did think about it because you warned me ahead of time, and I appreciate that. um it wouldn't be just one person. It would probably be the entirety of my Discord community. We call ourselves the Lithosphere, for reasons I'm not even sure, but that's just the name of our Discord. Um, but every single one of my best friends is there. And I know that if I'm having a difficult time with anything, any one of them, at least any one of them, would be there to help me no matter what. And I I'm definitely putting them in my acknowledgement section of my dissertation. Like they are one of the big reasons I'm still going, honestly. Um, Even though I had a child and even though COVID happened, they are. I'm doing this for me ultimately. Like this PhD is for me. Like I 100%. But I couldn't do it without them. Like every single one of those people are amazing to me, and I love them very much.
No, that's great. That's a great answer. I think at the end of the day, it's not a thing that I think maybe okay. Again, I'm being very broad sweeping, but like as a society,
Mhm.
we're not very good at. There's that joke. Maybe it's a very British thing, but like, oh, we love to complain and not congratulate enough. And I think it's really good to to show gratitude to people. It's a really important thing to do, and that's a real nice one, particularly when in this case you've got a real community that
Mhm.
inspire and sort of help you push on. Really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
so my final sort of little set, my favorite, like because it's just a really fun thing. I've learned a lot from a lot of people from these ones, but it's the quick fire questions. So
Okay.
you are on a fantasy retreat to a deserted type of land that you would like, because you'd say maybe a desert island, but I mean that certainly wouldn't be my bag, so I don't know about anyone else. And it's a retreat. You're not being exiled there or nothing, but you're allowed
Oh,
to
good.
take
Okay.
one film or movie, an album, a book, and a game of some sort. Like people have had board games or whatever. You're allowed like all the tech to like one box set. You're
Oh
allowed all
boy.
the things to use them, but like you're only allowed to take one with you. What do you pick?
Okay. So my film would be Clerks. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a Kevin Smith film. I believe it was his first movie. Um, I can quote a lot of that movie verbatim, and I feel like that's one I don't get tired of. And the soundtrack's really good. Um, my game, oh gosh, one with a lot of replayability. So I probably, you know what? I'd pick Skyrim.
Nice.
I would definitely, because I've done a lot of different builds in Skyrim, and it's really easy to do like don't touch bows this game, or don't touch shields or magic, or only magic. So there's a lot of replayability there. One book. Oh boy.
Again, we're very flexible. You can have like a collection or like a box set of like if it would physically be packaged as a box set, that's totally fine.
Oh, well, I guess I would put the whole entirety Witcher box set together then, because I love the novels a lot. And I read them after I played the third game, so yeah, I kind of did that backwards. And then album, I know it's going to be a Rush album, but but which one? I think
Ooh,
I'm gonna
do you go for
go.
an album, or do you go for a greatest hits? Ooh.
Oh, I'm gonna go. I'll just go with the classic 2112 by Rush. Oh, do I though? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna stick to that answer, because I know I'm gonna change it every second I think about it. So
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I always it's just real nice to hear the variety and the logic people go down to pick the things. It's really interesting to see it happen. The
yeah.
last question I have for you is: do you have
hmm
any questions for me?
Oh, what is your desert island setup look like?
I actually did get asked this a couple episodes ago, but I can't actually remember
Okay.
what I said. Uh,
Whoops.
so like to rattle it off, like this time again, like book, I'd probably take the Dune series with me because
Okay.
I'm enjoying those a lot at the minute. Film, my all-time favorite film, is The Mask. Although I said this at the time, but I haven't rewatched it, so I don't know if it's not aged well. Uh,
The
so
Jim Carrey
the
version?
Jim Carrey version, yeah, yeah,
Wow. That's a
that's
good movie.
an old movie, but gold.
Yeah, definitely.
Album. So someone will be in the comments tell me if I said the same things as last time or not. um, Album like Fallout Boy's Folie à Deux, just one of my all-time favorite albums. For me, I'm one
Hmm.
of those people where like I like an album to tell a story and be self-contained and feel like you
Right.
start at one point and go to another. Um,
Okay.
Albeit the title is like maybe a little bit problematic, because folie à deux is a French psychiatric term that's no longer used, called the shared madness of two, and yeah, it's a bit icky.
Hmm.
But like it was kind of meant to be used because it was outdated, and it's more about the conception than the actual term itself. But I love
Yeah.
that album, like one of those like proper teenage emo kind of ones that just really speak to me. And
Yeah.
video game, again, I can't remember what I said last time. I think I love a lot of games. I love a lot of games. I love a lot of sort of stuff like RPGs. But the games I
hmm
have sunk the most hours into are all football, like soccer games. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm British and I'm from Liverpool, so you know we like football where I'm
Well.
from. So it just be like a really crappy version of like Pro Evo or something, just because I could just play it for years. Give me Master League, I'll just accelerate it to like the year 2050 and just have a great time.
I mean, that is a game with a lot of replayability too. So,
I'm
you know,
like, and I'll freely admit I'm bad for. I love football that much that I can sit there and just play it. I love the feeling of scoring every goal. I love the tactics
yeah.
of sorting a team out. Um, yeah,
Hey, whatever, melt your butter, if you will.
yeah, exactly. It just does the thing for me as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Um,
yeah. So with
I
that, we'll
yeah.
bring the episode to a close. Amanda, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I have truly been
Yeah. Thank you
psyched
for having
to
me.
be with you. It's just great to. I like to call it networking, so I'd say this is me working uh, with other really great psychology, video game studies nerd people. It's great to be able to meet and to share the space.
Yay. I
Uh,
I completely agree. Yeah, we were totally working this whole time.
Oh yeah, this is business. Get it, like
uh,
on LinkedIn, just be like, well, I was a guest on a podcast. It's a pretty big deal. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, have you got anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
um, no,
And
I'm
that's fine.
good.
That's
Um,
fine.
yeah, I don't have anything to plug, so just I had a good time. This was fun.
So obviously for the people watching on the YouTube, and obviously attached to the description, there's a little link to your Twitter and stuff. Is there anywhere else that
Hmm.
people would need to go if they wanted to find out more about you, or is just Twitter the hot space to be?
Just Twitter. I don't really put anything anywhere else. So yeah.
That's fair enough. Right. Well, for the people with a visual connection to the podcast, we're going to move over to the ending screen when I can find it. There it is. As ever, everyone, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have. And until then,
Mhm.
until I see you next time, look after your mind, body, and soul. Goodbye.
Bye.